Hello and welcome to another video on my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. This video is going to sort of be a touch on, I guess. I'm not really a catch up. I'm not sure of a good phrase to use yet for what kind of I'm attempting to just insert this video. I feel like it's really important to touch on um, the ultimate ways that we can identify light versus dark. Before I go into who exactly the archons are and talk about the death of cultures and really sort of look at history over time and how it has evolved and shifted and moved and how we could use the past or what we know from the past as markers to better help us identify negative systems here in the present moment and in the future so that we can pull back and get away from them, right? Because um, that 3D matrix structure is crumbling. It's the wheels are falling off, they're riding it as hard as they can, but it will eventually bust at the bottom of the hill. They're going to hit the wall pretty soon with that whole system. And I talked about this a lot before with sort of the ascension of humanity and also the ascension of Mother Earth and the whole progression um, back to oneness, right? The great journey. And if we look at life and here on Earth, um, and as that great journey through duality, through lessons and learning in three dimensions, 4 dimensions too, you know um, we can appreciate better um, the catalysts, the shadow. And so I have already talked quite a bit about negative structuring in general, what that means, what negative energy flows like, and how we use or how the dark side, the archons, the negative agenda uses negative systems to trap people. So if you haven't seen my previous videos on the negative agendas, tricks, and traps, I definitely suggest watching those. I talk about so many things like servitude versus sovereignty, debt slavery, the makeup and structuring of that matrix system that they have us, entrapped in, the mind control that comes along with it. So if those kind of things interest you, definitely I'll link some of the videos in the description or in my comments so that you could check those out if you haven't seen those videos yet. Because for this video particularly, like I said, it's just kind of like a random insert here. I really want to do a reminder or a refresh on the great light versus dark, good versus evil, negative, positive split, right? So we could actually talk about and compare just the two um, so that we can better identify them in our working lives, so we can better identify them within our own self, and really so that you could use these as gauge points, sort of, with your energetic alchemy, with your shadow and light work, and in your daily life to connect with your energetic intentions, with your soul, with your mind, body, spirit, the whole complex, um, and make better choices for yourself, whatever those are, to align you with what you want. Quickly at the beginning, I will say, I am teen positive. I really love service to others. I align with it. It makes me feel great. Um, and so I am slightly biased towards that. But I will not deny or negate the full path that is there for the negative side and the great choices of manyness that lie on that side of the spectrum, right? There are equal opportunities for light and dark in duality, in evolution, to grow. And if that concept is totally new to you too, please definitely watch some of my other videos because I talk a lot about that, the idea of duality and how everything is on an energetic spectrum of choice, right? And we get to decide the possibilities and the probabilities for our own direct future by using our intention and attention to create possibilities, ideas, manyness. I just like to call it manyness, um, out in our direct world and in our new future, or near future. New too, you know, but anyways, so if all that kind of stuff is new to you, welcome to my channel. I hope I'm not overwhelming you. You know, this is a great video for beginners anyway, and for all of us, right? It can be a refresher, or it could really just be an introduction so that you can actually learn, well, where are the lines between, I've never really thought about that before. And interestingly enough, some of it's really morality, and some of it really kind of is innate within us. So when we talk about it, it just might really ring true to you. You might have been like, oh, well, I don't really need a video to tell me that. And some people are more connected and some people aren't, some people are under a lot of mind control. Some people are um, really wrapped up in the external circus show that's going on, and they've really lost a sense of their inner compass and inner self. So I'm hoping maybe this could be like some bells going off, some little lighting up of the heart center, of your own inner world, of your intuition, perhaps, that might call you into alignment better. And so, like I said, I'm going to try to just give both offerings here and just do a straight comparative. And then I might talk just a bit about negative versus positive alignment. So I'm gonna share my screen here, and I really hope, fingers crossed, that I'm doing this correctly. We'll see, I guess, when I go to air it. Now, hopefully, I'm sharing two screens here that have some infographics that I've made previously a while back that I thought aligned nicely with this video, so I wanted to share them. One of them is just the basic organic structuring of the threes that I really like to use as a working point, sort of a general template, just as a reminder to myself of how much I have going on, right? How many layers I'm actually interacting on in my daily life. We all are, right? So, um, like I said before, we have these three bodies of influence: the mind, the body, the spirit. And intention, attention, energy, work, catalysts, all types of disruptions and interactions happen for us and with us on all three levels, individually, together, combinations of the two, three, just one of them. It's really limitless, but there are three of them, and it's very helpful to know them and understand them. And they break into infiniteness. The mind is infinite, the body is infinite, and the spirit is. And so we could really pick apart and be critiquing. But for this and for this talk here, beginners and refreshing here, it's just a general overview of a reminder, right? The mind is sort of, our more frenetic thinking, the logical, impulses and things like that. The body, the physical vessel, right? Our infinite intelligence that runs our body vessel, all of our organs, the interactions that happen through our body vessel. And then we have our spirit, which has a whole connection and body of its own and connection to source. And they all communicate with each other. And there's a variety of ways that we can stunt and retard a lot of the interactions that are going on. And of course, I'm not going to I don't want to get too tracked off, but the negative agenda can focus and harness and work on these. So we have the three bodies of influence. We also have the three layers of interaction, and that's what I have in the top here with the bubbles. And it's important to remember that the borders between your worlds and your layers of interaction here are really created and upheld by oneness, by source, by a sacred promise of sovereignty, basically. But your intention creates these boundaries, and you alone get to filter through and bring in and and revoke consent or put a boundary up. Do not allow interaction between whatever you choose. So we have the inner world, and the inner world is your very inner world, right? That's anything that happens within you that you would have to express or speak out for another to understand or know about. So anything that happens inside your inner world is just you, your inner thoughts, all of the functions, all of the energy interactions that your body does. Um, that's your inner world. Your direct world is anybody in like that you contact with, that you have a direct connection to, everybody in your immediate family, your work life, anywhere you go to the store, anytime that you can actually physically go out and go on a trip somewhere, that becomes in your direct world. It's part of your direct life at that time. um, and same thing, we have a bit of a fluid boundary here between the inner and direct world. And then we have a loosely fitted what is considered our direct world because things come and go out of it, right? Um, but basically, your direct world, you actually experience. Um, and the external world is the final world. And this is really the reflection of the collective. And it is anything that's happening out there that you don't actually interact with. It's things that are portrayed, it's anything that you see or hear about going on. Mostly the huge body of this is made up of like the media world, the newspapers, the news, radio, and television, and all that kind of stuff. That's where the external world happens. And we don't ever actually partake in that external reflection. Um, it's an illusion, and that's really where the shadow in the negative agenda really has kind of its playground area out there. And I will not get distracted in talking about that again. So, and then my third section of structuring to talk about here is the lenses of observation. And this is really important to understand because it has to do with our tie to the observer, the before, source, God, um, infinite intelligence, the ether, whatever's running the show here. It really taps into that spiritual body kind of thing. Um, you know, um, each one of these three. So I have three sections of structuring that I'm talking about, and they're each built off of, you know, each other sort of. So the three layers of interaction really have to do with our body vessel, that type of, it's more of a physicality kind of thing. It has to do with the physical, and those bodies of influence that I talked about, that has to do with the minds, its organization of things and information, right? And then we have the lenses of observation, and that third category is really representation of the spirit, and it does have to do with the connection back to source and God, like I said. And the three lenses of observation are first person, which is basically your inner world and it's your personal view. And then we have communion. And that lens of communion includes others. That's how we create with others. It's a beautiful space of open imagination, possibilities and probabilities out there that can be formed and molded and moved. And um, then it has to do with others too. We have the collective, we have individuals in there, others and source, sort of. That's why I call it communion, right? Because to represent a sacred space of communication and creation, of give and take happening in that lens. And then we have the third lens, which is the reflection. And like I said, that is anything that's showcased to us, that is told to us. It's formed outside, sort of separate from us. We don't have a strong influence on that, on the reflection. And especially, I will say, it's been inverted again to be made to seem that we have absolutely no control over the reflection, and that the reflection is actually real. It's a solid thing happening out there, and that it's not an illusion screen, a display kind of thing happening that's easily changeable and easily morphed. They wanted us to really think it's a real play on stage with real actors happening, physicality out there that we're just not involved in. But that's not the case. It's a sum of the whole. It's a sum. It's all, all the pieces inside, all the inner worlds in our communion space create that great reflection out there. And so we do have an impact on it, but you have to have a clean inner space, and you have to have true intention coming from that inner space to have that conscious awareness, and tap into that collective reflection. And lots of us do this when we tap into channeling or the Akashic records, or, through hypnosis, past life regressions, quantum hypnosis techniques, all different kinds of meditation and Zen and zoning out, whatever you like to call it, right? Um, it's provable that we do have a connection to that. Uh, so those are the three structurings that I kind of just wanted to start off with, so that we could use them as reminders that all of the things I'm going to talk about here on the light or dark, how to identify intentions, and also I have some of my notes here that I'm just going to go over about the basic views of life and the structuring of the universe for each side, for each polarity. And mostly I'll call it polarity or service intention here in this talk. But basically what I'm talking about is like your vibe, if you're positive or negatively charged, or have a vibe around you or whatever. But I wanted to talk about the layerings first, or the structurings, as a key reminder that all these things can pop up in such a multitude of ways across all these layerings, lenses, bodies. They have unique and tailor fit, ways that all of these things can be workings within there. So I just wanted to showcase the wide spectrum, so that we have a large body of understanding before we get into the nuances of the separation, right? Because like I said from the beginning, it's so important that we're respectful of all of this, and that we do allow as much spaces as needed, as much time as needed, and as much discovery. Because, like I said, I'm biased towards the positive side. Um, Positive evolution and growth and ascension. I see that as such a worthy cause, so fulfilling and so inspiring and enlightening, that I just always will have. I think I'll always hold that charge. So my opinions and my examples tend to be weighted towards that more positive alignment. So forgive me if I get a little tied off and I seem like a little biased, but I want to leave free open area for all exploration, because at the end of the day, positive isn't about as much light and niceness and blocking out darkness and saying that's not allowed, or that can't be done, or don't do that, that's bad. um it's it's more of unconditional love and acceptance, and saying, why, let me help you figure out why you want to do that. Why would you want to feel bad? Let's talk about that. Let's examine and get into the understanding, so that we can get out of that. Because you know that's stagnant, that's slowing you down, that's keeping you constricted and tied down to where you're at, and that's um, doesn't help get back to oneness. It doesn't bring you closer to source. But then again, and this is what I'll say at the very beginning, the ultimate defining line here, the choice at point that makes your decision of whether you want to be positively aligned or you want to be negatively aligned, is truly whether you can tap into that one truth of source creation, and that we all come from the great before, that this is all some sort of creation by the creator, the observer, an infinite intelligence of some kind that resides and has a purpose outside of this creation of the universe that we're experiencing now. If you hear that and that rings true to you, and you know, um, you know, whether it does make you feel a little scared, or it makes you feel excited, or it makes you feel just right, it just clicks. That's the one truth, and that's the root of all positive thinking, and that's where intention lies. And you can't go wrong if you hear that and that you accept that truth. You're building from a firm foundation. Now, if you hear that and you don't like that, if you hate that, if you think, no, no, I don't care, there is no source, I've never seen proof of it, don't believe in it, this is, a series of random events that has just unfolded as is. Or if you're just like, I don't even want to think about it, I can't even comprehend that. Um, I'm alone. I'm myself. Then you're creating um, a distortion of the one truth. You're not pulling, you know, true light from source. And so you're creating shadow inside yourself. And that's how initial dark starts, initial shadow, initial distortion, and the alignment to negativity, because you're denying yourself that great truth. You're harming yourself. Basically, you're turning your back on source and saying, no, that's not true. I don't, that's not right. And then because you've done that, turning your back on the light, on source, and creating shadow, bending your own light, now you have a limited scope on the negative spectrum to work within. And it all has to always cater to that initial lie, right? I like to think of it as a love well, an unconditional well here inside of us, like that holds this eternal flame sort of energy that comes out. And when we do this initial first lie, it's basically like putting a manhole cover on it and putting a rug over it and saying like that's not there. And then your brain, your imagination will create this sort of energy pot, a fuel tank, so to speak, that you have like separate from this organic eternal thing that you've covered up because you're having your first lie is that. So now you have this actual physical solid fuel tank that is limited, that has only a gauge of certain amount of fuel in it, and you have to fill it and you have to keep it full, and it's over there and it's separate, and it's you, and only you are responsible, and only you are truly concerned about how much is in there, how long it lasts. um, that whole shift of thinking is what causes this initial distortion. It is, it's what the great divide is all about. And now lots of stuff can take place, and it's so chaotic and confusing out here in all the worlds that it can appear in many different ways. And the dark side loves, confusion and more darkness and shadows to sort of constrict and contort itself to control the way that it's seen, so that at all costs it could never be reminded or called to actually pull that rug over the manhole cover and go in there and see what's in there. They know it's there. You can never forget that that's there, but you can fool yourself. There's a multitude of ways to try to get yourself to get around that. And that's where we have such vast variety in the negative side. Okay. So let's get into actually what these two differences are, right? Let's talk about light versus dark, or negative, positive versus negative. Here on the screen, I hope I am sharing an infographic that I made with just a couple of touch points here, so you can see the basics of what we're talking about. And I'm going to go over my notes here and just read a little bit more in-depthly examples so that we can kind of compare. And like I said at the start, this is for hopefully for workings in your own world. Like you can use them to identify your intentions and these, the immediate responses and reactions that you get inside your mind on things, or a vibe or a feel or an energy response, an emotional response that gets triggered in you. When you hear certain things, when you're confronted with decisions or certain types of people, feel them, see them for what they are. Don't try to cover them up or change them immediately just because, oh, they feel negative. Let them be, and then ask them why they are that way and how they see, a good solution that could work for everybody. And that's the basis of light and shadow work, right? Anyways, I don't want to get too off topic either. So let's talk about I'm going to go back and forth on my list here, just over what I have shared, and then I'll go through my notes. So identifying intentions, we have Luciferian or source-based. Luciferian in itself just means self-centered. It's really about the self, um, restriction or acceptance, right? Condemning or forgiving, self serving or reciprocity, inorganic, organic, confined, free, oppressed, sovereign, negative, positive. And for emotions, right, I put at the bottom fear, shame, hate. And for positive, love, gratitude, acceptance, right? Um, those, if you pull back, the excuses, the preliminaries, the makeups, the all of the reasons whys, and and just look at the actual feelings, intentions, um, that you're getting from something, it it can give you great cues. And if you follow those things and you look at that and you say, wow, this is really condemning. I'm really, you can see it as a negatively aligned thing. Well, why am I condemning this person or myself for this reason or this action or whatever it is? You know what I mean? You can see inside of that condemning behavior the opposite reflection of it, which is to be forgiving, right? Or accepting. And it's beautiful. I love this, and it reminds me of tarot so much, because when we have, when you have a reversed card, it's like when you see the dark side or the inversion of something, it's like a message or a key to a higher path of the most positive reflection of that, because you see the opposite of the extreme in the other direction, right? And you're like, oh, there is like other opportunities, other possibilities. um, and so, yeah, I'm going to go over these, my notes here for what I have. And I think what I'll do is do the back and forth, um, again, because you can really see when we do the back and forth, you can really kind of see the work and the possibilities that are in between the two, right? How you can get from one to the other, the kind of catalyst, the kind of experiences and opportunities or accidents or, whatever might happen to bring you from one to another. Um, so, and again, this is, based off my opinion, and is not set in stone. And I'm not trying to be like, this is definitely, needs to be um, followed to a T or anything. This is just my opinions and offered here for learning, advice, and educational purposes, as always. So we have for positive, which is a light, side. The view of life, okay, or state of being says that, or truth, even, it's kind of like a truth, right? Or a law. Um, says that we are eternal, unconditional, and we derive our power, or its power. So if it's a system, right, derives its power from its connection to oneness, to source, to God. It has no true ending because all is made up of the one. Now, conversely, for negativity, we have conditional, limited, has an impending ending, a finish line of some sort, right? The hourglass going out, clicking, ticking top, ticking time clock, excuse me. They see the connection to source or God as restricted, distorted, or even blocked in some ways, or negated completely. Now, for a view of communion space, community, and choice points and interactions, we see on the positive side, right? Intentions and thinking towards unity and harmony being emphasized. And the negative side, conversely, we see separateness, individual labels and categories being emphasized. The positive offers service in the form of energy, time, action, to others, which is given freely, um, without or with as little of possible infringements or entanglements, right? It's a freely offered service that we give out on the positive alignment side. You do it because it feels good, right? Giving is better than receiving kind of vibe to it. Um, Conversely, on the negative side, they rely on service to self instead of service to others. They use service to self to fuel its life, its interactions, energy body. Um, it must bring in additional energy from its subjects, partners, adherents, its friends, family, TV, whatever it is. Um, it is always looking for an inward type of service. And again, this is why, we sometimes generalize it as service to self or service to others. And that can be confusing for people who aren't awoke yet, or who aren't awakened, excuse me, not awoke. um, or who don't understand real energetic intentional work, because they hear service to self and they say, oh, self-love, oh, I do things for myself that feel great, that's not bad, that's not negative. And it's like, no, it's not. Because the true definition of service to self, when we call it that, is the service to the self in direct opposition or in harm to others. So you're serving yourself first in importance, in place of others. Um, Only then is it considered to be negative service to self. When we do things for ourselves, when we take care of ourselves, self-love, even if it's a little bit of indulgence, um, that intention is a service. It actually aligns with service to others, because when we care for ourselves in a loving, actual, aligned, intentional meaning, we're treating ourselves as source or as a great other, right? Any way that we would treat a loved one, a best friend, our kids, anything, the same love that we have for that, we're offering ourselves. It's the same intention and energy. It's not negative. It could never be negative. Um, but when we're thinking of ourselves first in a way that puts ourselves in ahead of others or more important than others, that has the negative connotation to it. And that makes it negative self-service. That is negative aligning. Um, Conceptually thinking in positive alignment, we see ideas and emotions like abundance driving decisions. You know, our motivation, when we're being positively aligned, we will gather motivation from a place of abundance, from that eternal light inside of us, that ever flowing out. Um, Conversely, on the negative side, um, what motivates them is a fear of lack, or the feeling of lack, of not having enough, of needing more. That really want is what drives their decisions, all of them, right? Um, and so also positively aligned, I'm sorry, just reading my notes. um, Positively aligned, we'll see them or us not concerned or dependent or reliant on others. Not in a hurtful way, like, we don't care about others, but we, in our own inner world, our world that we create is not dependent on other people, on their perceptions, on their opinions, on their advice. We're not concerned or dependent on their energy exchanges or on their energy input to keep ourselves going. Conversely, the negative, right, is absolutely reliant and dependent on these energy exchanges coming in from others. So they find themselves very wrapped up in external relationships and energy collection, basically. as far as worth is considered, this conceptuality of worth, the law of worth from the positive perspective is that worth is never and can never be externally based or validated from the external. Worth is bestowed at the time of conception. Worth is bestowed by being alive being. That is plain and simple on the positive side. Conceptuality or the law or the truth of worth on the negative polarity is that worth is based on external sources, systems, on how much you have um, stored and saved. Um, Another big thing about worth that I want to compare here, for positively aligned worth, right? Like I said, is based and bestowed at the time of conception, um, versus the negative polarity, which worth has to be earned, right? It has to be proven. It has to be agreed upon by the higher ups, you know? And again, I'll talk about real quickly, the positive alignment is an alignment of sovereignty, right? Everyone is a sovereign being. Every single live being has sovereign worth, and that is the right to its own life, its own choices and opinions, and to make its way through its path on its own, uninfringed upon, un distorted or contorted or whatever. That the positive believes that every piece of creation that is created is bestowed with that sacred right of sovereignty to grow back to oneness and evolve on its own path. And conversely, right, the negative side um, doesn't believe in sovereign worth being bestowed like that. It instead says that's not true, that's a lie, and it creates this servitude, this slave master kind of template that I've talked about so much, where a lot of times, sometimes it's the God or the creator, and then humans are down here. And it just creates this servitude cycle where the creation is never good enough, and it's always at the brink of being snuffed out or ruined or tossed away. It's always trying to make itself seem worthy to the creator of it, or chasing approval. um, and finally, as some comparative points, I just want to talk about values in general. um, Positive versus negative alignment. Excuse me. The cold fall air coming in where I am. It's like my throat's so tickly in the mornings lately. Um, so the values, right? We see a great difference and divide in the values. Positive, focused alignment, light, goodness, values life, basically, right? Just things that are alive. It values it, sees value in its whatever it is, from plants, to earth itself, to people, animals, our water cycle, the air, everything. It values life, values others, it treats others how it would like to be treated. Plain and simple. The negative side, conversely, right, it devalues individual life. It treats others as subjects or extensions of itself that is less than the original. It belittles others as a means of ensuring and reconfirming its own independence in allegiance and into servitude, basically. Um, they have to confirm that lie that everybody is not from source, that everybody does not have this great well of love and light inside them. And so, that having to denounce that creates a rippled effect, basically, and it creates a lot of things, a lot of distortions, a lot of more lies on top of them to have to confirm and reconfirm to yourself that that's not true, or that's not there. It's not as worth exploring as, And so, yeah, those are my basics here on the differences between light and dark, and how um, how they can be really um, tailor fit, or sort of, tuned to all of those different layerings, right? And in a multitude of ways they come through, and we are um, presented, I guess, with so many different opportunities at choice points to align to different ways. Everything basically is a choice point, and so if we see our lives a little bit more like that, of these unfolding choice points of creative possibilities, and you're the creator being, you're the God, you're the source being at that time, at that choice point, and you have the creative freedom, licensing, whatever you want to look at it as, the rights to bestow sovereignty at that point, to bestow goodness and positivity, to work from that intentional space within yourself and free yourself at each point. Because what we're really doing is yeah, we're handing out um, immortality, we're handing out life and creative freedom and sovereignty, worth, um, at those choice points when we align positivity, but we're also freeing ourselves at the same point. Because if we choose the opposite, and we choose to be constrictive and restricting in our creations, and we choose to instead put infringing parameters on the thing that we're creating or what we're involved in with that time, we really tie it to ourselves. We become responsible for what it is. We become tied to it. It's a reflection on us. And then it has all these worth and emotions. And we start to feel like, oh, the way it performs is based off of our worth. And if it breaks, we're bad. Or if people don't like it, they don't like us. And that kind of thing, it's not helpful. And it's not of true creator mindset, of positive essence and alignment, right? It's negativity. You're creating with a negative charge. And so whatever you're creating and a part of, it has a more limited scope to operate within, because it's been birthed in this sort of negative place. And you're the creator doing that. And so you're not really being this free creator creating a free thing. You're being a tyrant master molding this thing, this service oriented creation that's for you to be used a certain way, so that its energy and reflections can be back at you in a way that suits you, which in itself is restrictive and constricting and Luciferian. You're attempting to create a system or a working that will go out into the collective and be an energy beacon for you. Basically, go collect out energy and send it back to your system. And unfortunately, no matter how beautiful the thing you wish that makes it, no matter how it might help the others out there, help collectives or whatever, um, it still has a negative charge, because you as a creator being are still pulling energy from it, right? So your service as your creator is negatively oriented. Um, and like, as just an ending here, none of these choice points are end all be alls. It's not like you make 5 choices on the negative side and all of a sudden you're off on this negative alleyway that never has connections to get you back. Everything flows like a beautiful double helix. It's polarity. It's a seeking of a magnetic field, right? We have the opposings that seek each other in a strange way. And so no matter where you are, it's not about, you know, bringing yourself right back or jumping over to positive if that's what you feel like you need to be, but you're resonating or feeling a lot of these more negative things. Um, like I said, it's just about accepting it and saying, okay, well, let's see why. Why am I leaning a bit towards this way? Why am I getting really wrapped up in exterior things? Why am I so dramatic? Or why do I have these initial responses that are super negatively charged with fear or shame or guilt? Um, if you do seeking internally to do some discovery in there, um, to find harmonious solutions for yourself, not for any other reason. That's how your charge will change, and you'll become more positively aligned, and you'll see more positive things popping up into your direct world. You'll see more positive possibilities out there in the future for you to start, aligning towards. Um, because it's a tricky path. It's really about understanding the energetic workings of it and doing the work throughout your day to do the shadow alchemy, to, honestly assess things. And so that's my hope with this video. Thank you so much if you've tuned in and watched the whole thing. I hope it's cleared some ground and really made dividing lines for all of us so that we can really be more aware with our choices and look at the spectrum, not with fear or scared of what we might see, but just with honest eyes and an honest seeking to really find the solution that fits best for our own uniqueness, right? Because we are each our own unique, beautiful fractal on this path back to oneness, all of us, all created back in to make God source, to make before, to make the creator, whatever the whole you choose to see it as. So yes, I hope this has been insightful, and I hope that it really will help us as we go into talking more about the archons and who they are and identifying them, and also working by using our external examples, we can see the reflections of our own shadow within ourselves as well, and do the working and the exploration with that side of us that needs to be done, because we see these things, we react this way because we have bits and shards of it inside of us, and that we need to do exploring, slowly peeling back layers and um, honing and toning our own working inside of there, right? Um, so with that, I think I'll close out my video here. You can always find me directly on amariespeaks.com. I have a plethora of tips and tools and references, all free, across a spectrum of categories about introspection, spirituality, and happiness. You can find me on Telegram too, t.me at amariespeaks over there, or on BitChute or YouTube. So link some of the videos in here if you're interested in doing a little bit more learning about this topic. I'll put some things in the comments. And if not, I hope you'll tune in next time when I drop my next video on the negative agendas, tricks, and traps, which I'm going to just talk about exactly who the archons are and, how we see them out in the world today. So I will catch you around next time. I hope you have a beautiful day or evening wherever in the world you are. Sending blessings and love to you. Thank you for listening to me, witnessing my journey here, and thank you for your beautiful service to the collective. I will see you next time.